I just want to clarify that parents are in charge, and parents' rights do not stop at a classroom door. They're still the parent. These children do not belong to the state.
For Cooper, the biggest challenge is just being able to live his authentic self. Cooper looks like a girl. He has long hair. He wears outfits that society would deem really for girls. And that's probably the biggest challenge, would be for people to just accept him for who he is.
There's a lot of harmful components of the Don't Say Gay bill. It's not just the prohibition on classroom instruction on an entire group of people, particularly the LGBTQ community, that is singled out in this bill.
My daughter got into the car after school and said, "Mom, they had a meeting with me and they asked me which restroom I preferred to use." So I was extremely confused. I asked her several follow-up questions, and I immediately contacted the guidance counselor.
We've seen instances of students being told by different folks in school, "Oh, don't worry, don't pick your gender yet, do all this other stuff." They won't tell the parents about these discussions that are happening. That is entirely inappropriate.
It's shameful what's going on in Tallahassee. So many ways that they are trying to take away our rights.
There has always been an intersection between parents, politicians, and public schools. But this political battleground has been heating up across the country, in places like Texas, California, and in Florida, where it's come to a head in the form of the newly signed Parental Rights in Education law. But its opponents called it the Don't Say Gay bill. So what's in it, and how did we get here?
They are sending a message that there's something dangerous, so dangerous about LGBTQ people that the topic of sexual orientation or gender identity must be prohibited in the classroom, specifically for grades K through 3.
That is Florida House Representative and community activist Carlos Guillermo Smith. He represents the 49th District in Orlando, a place that was tragically impacted by the attack on the Pulse nightclub in the summer of 2016.
LGBTQ Floridians like myself are a normal and healthy part of every society and every school. And bills like the Don't Say Gay bill send a terrible message that there's something wrong or inappropriate with the LGBTQ community in a way that we need to be prohibited from classroom instruction. And I think that's wrong.
We do prohibit in this K-3 arena the instruction of sexual orientation and gender identity. I'm about just let kids be kids. But in this beginning, K-3, I saw some materials that alarmed me where schools were actually bringing these topics up for discussion with young children. We're talking about kids that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Florida Senator Dennis Baxley is one of the authors of the newly signed law. Baxley stressed that the law is designed to remove classroom instruction or official school curriculum involving gender identity and sexual orientation in kindergarten through 3rd grade, and said it includes additional transparency policies for informing parents. Smith and Baxley have very different perspectives on the same law. So what does the new law actually say? Some of the key language in the new law includes prohibits classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in certain grade levels. The sponsors of the law say this language is meant to remove official classroom instruction regarding gender identity and sexual orientation in grades K through 3. Opponents to it feel these sections are open for interpretation by different schools or parents, and single out or erase the LGBTQ community in public schools. There are also other elements included in the law as well, like this section. Prohibits school district personnel from discouraging or prohibiting parental notification and involvement in critical decisions affecting students' mental, emotional, or physical well-being. The law's sponsors say this clause is about increasing parental involvement in what their kids are being taught and doing in school. So, how do a couple of Florida moms feel about all this?
I am a personal example of why this bill is necessary. In 2020, my daughter's middle school, met with our daughter behind closed doors with 3 school officials and developed a transgender, gender nonconforming support plan. She was 13 at the time. We were not notified of the meeting or invited to the meeting. And when I first inquired about the meeting, because my daughter was the one that told me that she had a meeting, and I was told by both the guidance counselor and vice principal on a phone call that I could not be given any information regarding the meeting because my daughter was now protected under a non-discrimination law.
January is a mental health professional and mother of 3. She told me her daughter started experiencing stress over her gender identity after her 3 closest friends all went through a gender transition. She approached the school about how to best move forward and was surprised when she was told she couldn't participate in the process. She was joined by her attorney for our interview because she eventually filed a lawsuit against the school district. The school district, however, doesn't agree with her assessment. They sent me a statement that read in part, "From the moment Mrs. Littlejohn first emailed her child's teacher to inform our staff of the situation, this has been handled together in partnership with clear communication." The district went on to write, "The family clearly instructed the school staff via email to allow their child to take the lead on this and to do whatever you think is best. They told me the superintendent met with the family and they are, quote, committed to amend any vague or unclear policy language." Then there's Jennifer.
Really, I speak out for my youngest. He's 11 years old. He's gender nonconforming. He uses he, him pronouns. He was born male, identifies as male, but his gender expression is female.
Jennifer is a mother of 4 and LGBTQ advocate through Parents for Transgender Equality Council. She says she has dedicated her efforts to educating not only her friends and community on these issues, but her son's school as well.
The good news is we've been able to educate our schools and friends, and everyone really does accept him, and that's because they've been educated. Something different about Cooper is he uses a gender-neutral restroom at school. Again, he identifies as male, but he presents as female, so he really doesn't belong in the girls' restroom or the boys'.
January and Jennifer find themselves on opposite ends of this issue, but after spending time with each of them, it's clear that both of them care deeply about their children and the possible outcomes once the law is enacted.
This violation that occurred with the school has had a profound and devastating impact on our family. It created a huge wedge between our daughter and us as her parents who know and love her better than anyone, because when you have a school that's only affirming and cutting the parent out of the conversation, and not just affirming, they celebrate, they encourage it. She was reintroduced to the class like it was a rebirthing. And so how does a child that's experiencing confusion then, if she changes her mind, how does she come back from that?
The only people that think this is a good idea are legislators. And my fear is what's going to happen to our kids in our schools. Our kids depend on their teachers to be there for them. If our children are not going to be able to live as their authentic self in schools where they need to feel safe in order to learn, this is going to really be a huge toll on the children in the state of Florida, unnecessarily too. This is absolutely discrimination and hate. This is not about parental rights. What parents? The parents that Ron DeSantis thinks are important, or all parents?
I asked January if she felt it was okay to say the word gay in the classroom.
100% yes. And that's what's been so frustrating, is the misinformation that has been out there about this bill. Both bill sponsors have said very clearly that this does not prevent organic classroom discussions from teachers discussing their LGBTQ status. You know, if a teacher has a wife or a male teacher has a husband, that does not prevent them from having photos on the desk and discussing their life experiences, nor does it prevent a child from discussing or disclosing his or her LGBTQ status. That's what's been so disheartening about what's been out there about this bill.
I asked Jennifer what she would say to a parent who is in favor of the new law.
The truth of the matter is, if what's in the public schools is offensive to you, if this is something you want to have full control over your child being exposed to, there's private school, there's charter schools. Take your kids out of public schools. You know, you can't on one hand say the government can't tell us whether we put a mask on our child, but we want the government to come in and decide what exactly our kids learn. Personally, I want my kids to learn about anything with these subjects from a trusted adult with an approved curriculum rather than from the internet.